Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of June 14th. I'm Ryan Miller and Matthew Emberg. It's Matthew Emberg. Did that song ever show up? No, actually, let's not start. On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week and then we tell you about it ahead of time every single time, and then you can watch it and talk with us every single time at bookclubformovies.com every single time. This week, we're doing Cruella, and Matt writes these bespoke synopses that so elegantly lead us into the subject at hand. This week's no different. It's one of his better ones.
Yeah. Elegance and eloquence. I don't know what the difference is, but both of them are us.
To a T.
To an E, actually.
To an E. To a BCFM.
Check us out on Letterboxd. All right, Cruella coming at you. 2 hours and 14 minutes. Written by Dana Fox and Tony McNamara. Directed by Craig Gillespie. Starring Emma Stone, Emma Thompson, Joel Fry, Paul Walter Hauser, Mark Stone, Kirby Howell-Baptiste, John McCrea. Here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for A Cruella. The totally true story of how a young girl with bi-colored hair named Estella becomes the Cruella de Vil Dalmatians the world over would come to fear.
I guess.
Kind of.
So why are we doing this?
You know, I will tell you why we are doing this. It wanted to be watched by people in my household, for one, and two, I
won't ask how many people live in your household. I'll just leave that up in the air. That's a generalization.
Right now, there are 3 people in this household, and all 3 of us wanted to watch it.
But then
the other thing, I was really hesitant to watch this because it's a story nobody wants. Nobody asked for this. Nobody was like, you know what we should have? Why isn't this done? No, it's never really been the focus of anybody's thought process. However, I will universally rant and rave about how utterly adorable and delightful Emma Stone always is.
Sure.
Emma Stone is to me, she is the polar opposite of the Rachel McAdams thing that you have. Like I always see her as Emma Stone to a point, but she's always so into the role and it's so somebody different that I always enjoy her.
Sure. I'll give you that. I mean, I'm probably still coasting on her super bad performance, to be honest. If that
easy A, man, it's the one that yeah.
You're right. That's an excellent one.
The Tooch.
So I won't begrudge you there for sure. But I think I might have been similarly disinterested. But I'll tell you the 2 things that sparked my interest. Number one, after you mentioned it, because you're like, I want to say you sent me a text somewhere along the lines of, I think I might want to watch Cruella. And I probably didn't give you a whole lot back with that because speaking of thought process, I can only imagine this came about because Maleficent did so well. There's 2 movies on that, right? Yeah. So somebody's wheels somewhere were turning and we're like, well, Cruella also. But I forget that they also already did 2 live action recreations of 101 Dalmatians.
Glenn Close was Cruella.
And I've never seen those. So I don't know how well this matches up to that universe. I had also never really given the original, the 61 cartoon, a chance. I want to say it's something that gets played often in my house. So it can be something, the kids watch it. So I kind of I don't ever really sit down, or I'm always doing something else. I decided to, in fact, I started Cruella and was like, oh, should I pay attention to 101 Dalmatians first before I do this? And everybody in my house was into that idea. So I did that. And I will say, I was sleeping on 101 Dalmatians, the 40, 50-year-old animated classic, that everybody.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love that the animation to that movie, the story is fun. It's a cool movie for sure. The animated one.
In fact, I didn't know because at first when I was watching it, I was like, man, it seems so different. Even though I want to say Sword in the Stone had kind of also, in fact, I'll need to look up which came first because the lines aren't solid. It's not like a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs where it seems so crisp all the time. And I'm not taking away from that. but it seemed so sketchy. And when I looked up after the fact, not necessarily why, but I just read up on the thing because I could tell there was a lot of kind of that animation effect where they're copying and pasting whatever it was. Actually, I know what it was because I looked it up. It's called xerography, apparently.
Okay.
And I guess after Sleeping Beauty didn't do great, they wanted to do. In fact, I've read some stuff that they were thinking about getting out of the animation game at that point, which sounds nuts, but sure. But apparently that Sleeping Beauty didn't do so well, so they came along with 101 Dalmatians thinking that, well, we can use this new technique that copies already done animations, but there's a loss of quality. So those sketchiness about the drawings was something that was endemic to that process. So they kind of they put it into the whole feature so that it would match all of that. Because when there's a lot of dogs on screen, they are copy pasting type stuff. But it totally works, man. They I don't know if they did the backgrounds before or after that to complement, but it is just a gorgeous movie top to bottom. That I did not need to watch in any way, shape, or form to watch Cruella.
Not at all. But now it's a blind spot that has been filled.
Yes. If anything, I'm thankful for Cruella for forcing my hand, so to speak, I guess.
Sure.
In that way.
Sure.
Cruella, though, the second thing that kind of got me interested in maybe doing a show on this when we were talking about it was the thing that you clued me into, a podcast episode of Stay at Homekins. Is that how you say it?
Stay F Homekins. Yeah.
Stay F Homekins. Okay, so it's Paul F. Tompkins and his wife Jeannie. Is that correct? Janie. I'm sorry. This is the only episode I've ever listened to, but I will say you are absolutely correct that she is a complete adorable package.
She is. She's just so much fun to listen to.
She seems a little a few, how does this phrase go, sheets to the wind or something in this particular episode.
Yes,
but
she definitely seems a little drunk. But then again, they usually are.
But utterly charming, just really great. But Paul F. Tompkins has a mini rant in that episode about the need at all for such a movie. In fact,
right,
not even to mince words, doesn't think there is a need for such a movie. And it's been a bit before I've seen that episode. Do you have maybe a better, like, what his issue was altogether with a movie like Cruella?
I don't remember off the top of my head anymore.
Okay.
But it was definitely around the lines of why would you try to take a person whose entire history in terms of the entertainment industry has been built around the idea of murdering and skinning dogs to wear them, and try to make her into, like, only now is the time in the world where you go, let's make her into a good guy or a kind of anti-hero.
And I'll admit that's one of the reasons that I was less than enthused, because I don't know if it's along the same lines of what he's talking about here, because I also feel like his criticism comes from a structural perspective where he's like, listen, I get that she's the bad guy and I get the feeling he's talking about the original animation or animated classic.
Yeah.
She's a bad guy in that, and she's not given a whole lot of due necessarily in the original animation. She's just immediately bad. She looks bad. She's horrible to be around. She fills the place with smoke, etc., etc., etc. Like, she just seems like a horrible person, right? At no point was even that movie interested in being like, why is she a horrible person?
Yeah, absolutely.
Though?
I mean, Disney movies rarely were.
True. Also very true. So I think his criticism came partly from that as well. Like, why do we need to know? Yeah. We do. So I will say that some of that did color my viewing of this. I did ask myself why at numerous points. And for most of the movie, not in a mean way, like, okay, why? It was more of just, okay, why are we doing this? Right. But I won't say that both didn't happen.
That's fair enough.
So those two things got me here.
Sure, yeah.
And I want to say you had already seen the movie at that point,
correct,
too. So what did you think of the movie Cruella after all that?
I think that the idea here had some pretty interesting execution. There's some things in this movie that I really, really like. I think a number of the cinematography choices are fantastic. I think the movie has some really beautiful sequences to it. I will universally, always and forever, like I understand that having real animals on set is harder, but it never looks good when they're
Never looks
CGI.
good.
And they in every moment that these dogs are CGI that you can see, it's just bad. There's a moment where they're all the three Dalmatians that we'll get to are sitting in a line, and they're all growling, and they're like following Cruella as she's walking through the ball, and it's the first time she's shown up as Cruella. And it's that sequence that you've seen if you've seen the commercials where she lights the fire and the gown that she's wearing goes up in flames, and she's wearing a red dress underneath it. These three dogs are like, they're following her, and it's like if they had real dogs, which I think they did for some of the scenes, they did like that almost South Park style of making it look like it was growling. Like, it just looked so bad. It was really not good.
I don't know if they did have real dogs for the Dalmatians
I'm
at
not
all. I
sure.
can't think of a single shot of the Dalmatian specifically that I thought looked like real.
Right.
With her dog, I forget the name of her actual dog. At least she has a little mutt, little
Yes,
scoundrel.
I don't recall what the dog's name was either. Wink was the other
I'm
one.
pretty sure that dog was real sometimes.
Sometimes, maybe. Yeah.
But not to good effect, because then when the I wonder what A stands for.
Association.
Oh, so when CGI that dog shows up later, it just looks worse, because it's not like a Jurassic Park thing
Right.
here where the CGI complements the practical and vice versa.
Because they're having them do Disney related stuff that dogs don't do or wouldn't do, or
Good point.
So there were some sequences that I really liked. Again, the CGI here and there was not great. I love the dynamic between Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. Those two played off each other so well, especially when Emma Stone has
Which one?
especially when Emma Stone is kind of doing the back and forth between the Cruella character and the Estella character. There's some really, really fun back and forths between them and the looks they give. And it's very, I mean, honestly, this movie is very much a like a younger teenager, slightly version of The Devil Wears Prada, you know, with the time period moved to the late 70s or mid 70s to, to London, and keeping it with the pseudo story of the dogs, which what it comes down to is, and this is not a spoiler because it happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie, the Dalmatians kill her mother, and that's the entire like premise of her wanting to further her life as a designer, a fashion designer.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. That moment is so weird because when it happens, I'm like, you are joking. They did not literally make her motivation for the other movies. The Dalmatians killed my mother. Like, it seemed ridiculous, but then they don't really. Like I get she doesn't like those Dalmatians for the rest of the movie, kind of, even though she's not really. Yeah,
I mean, for most of the movie, she
doesn't figure in even then really that much.
Or she thinks she killed her mother, until we find out later on that the dogs were sicked on her mother by the Baroness, played by
with a dog whistle. Yeah. We should, I guess, mention that does figure in later. But you're right. Yes, she thinks because she was causing a commotion at this place as a child that she caused the Dalmatians to knock her mother over the side of a cliff. We're going to spoil this movie. Yes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not. Look, Cruella. She gets her last name from a car.
It's not a good moment. They pull up and they're like, the name of this car is Devil. And the guy's like, DeVille, silly. And then she's in the corner going,
I like it.
And there you go.
The performances, like I said, between those two, I think were really, are there's some fantastic moments in there.
Okay, sorry. I did want to mention that too. So
yes,
you like the chemistry between Thompson and Stone.
I did. Yeah, I did.
The Emmas. How much of that, and I like Emma Thompson too, we've already established this. How much of that do you think was on Emma Thompson more than Stone?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Emma Thompson has the tougher role here overall, because she is playing Cruella to Cruella. And I think that's a significantly harder thing to do, whereas Cruella gets to be Emma Stone goes into this knowing she's going to get to ham it up, right? Like that character is supposed to be hammy, and she does.
Sure.
The entire and one of the issues that I will get to in this movie, I do have one pretty big problem with this movie actually.
Attached to Emma Stone's performance?
It's attached to the film overall.
Okay.
But
we'll stick with performances for now.
But she gets to ham it up, whereas this is that kind of more under the radar villain that she's not the good guy, but she's not the bad guy yet until she becomes the bad guy. So I thought that Emma Stone did a great job, but Emma Thompson I think really carries a lot of those scenes together. But I think that they still had great chemistry in my opinion.
Okay. So I feel like I'm asking leading questions here, but I really just want to know where you stand, because I think I'm on the opposite side on this one, actually. I think Emma Stone is great.
Yeah.
I don't think, it seems to me that she got the direction she needed, because you're right, she does ham it up, but not in a way that I enjoyed necessarily. Like there's this, I think it's the worst when she's employed at Liberties of London. Is that correct?
I think that's what it's
I believe
called.
The name of the store, as a housekeeper. And she's cleaning toilets and doing all this stuff while she's trying to get in with the boss there. And it leads to a lot of, like slapsticky almost stuff where she literally mugs the camera sometimes, like just kind of want. It might not be directly to camera, I'm sorry, but it's like these little ticks or like full facial expressions that are like, great. But I think what does it such a disservice is that I do, in my estimation, again, I'm on the other side of the fence here, I think, have Emma Thompson doing it right. Like actually playing that character in a way that's so...
like malevolent almost.
Trying to think of a better word than just perfect, because that doesn't describe anything.
She's got like this malevolence to her. That's the weird thing is like it's this she's just so good at being like perfectly British and perfectly
actually that's a good point. Also, I think it's with the nuance that role needed, and we're talking about two different roles, but this is what I'm trying to communicate, is that I think this is what the Cruella role needed.
Sure.
And I know it almost doesn't fit because Cruella did need to be played probably a little bit bigger, especially for all the visuals they were. And I'll agree with you on the visuals too, while I pass over this, that if there was a close third that got me to watch this, I did watch a trailer that had like some pretty arresting visuals about it. And I was like, all right, I might have to check it out. I get that Emma Thompson's character is not that, so maybe it doesn't mesh as well as I think, but I think to me it made Emma Stone look worse, because I'm like, well, Emma Thompson is doing this perfectly. And to Emma Stone's credit, she'd probably agree with me to some extent, because you're right, Emma Thompson, actually British, also been in the game for decades upon decades, and not in a bad way that speaking of female actors that age out or whatever, like
she's not.
She's I mean it in a good way. Yeah. No, she completely delivers. She was the reason I kept watching this a lot of the time, was Emma Thompson, actually.
Yeah, no, I loved Emma Thompson in this. I thought she was great. Some of that with when it comes to Cruella, I was fine with the performance overall, and I think because the character has to spend time with the Baroness to eventually become the Baroness, right? Like she is ultimately going to become that character, but like to another degree worse. And I in the respect that this movie is a prequel and kind of the coming out party for Cruella de Vil, it makes sense to me that she would be more over the top. But if they're going to make a sequel to this movie, she needs to be reined in, and she needs to be significantly so. Like
they are. It's in production.
Like
already.
The Mark Stone character really needs to come to light and really needs to kind of play almost an Alfred character to Emma Stone's Batman.
Well, I mean, Mark Stone's character needs to come to life in every Mark Stone movie.
He's the best.
And does, because Mark Stone. But also, funny that you mentioned that. Towards the end, I remember thinking, in this movie even, as I think he was like, so towards the end, Mark Stone is the one, is the mole kind of, really going to spoil this, but, the Baroness's daughter is Cruella, and when she had her, she asked Mark Stone, the butler ish, to destroy the baby, essentially. And Mark Strong did not. Did I say Mark
Yeah,
Strong?
I think we've been
remember.
saying
He's
Mark
married,
Stone, actually, and it is Mark Strong.
Sorry.
And what?
He's married to Emma Stone in my.
They're the Stoners.
That doesn't work either, actually. I can't figure it out. Mark Strong does not. He gives the baby to the woman that Cruella does think is her mother for her entire life. Anywho, towards the end, when they're all part of the same team and Mark Strong is going around the room just kind of giving people food on a platter, I'm like, man, why? Like, the times when Mark Stone is a foreground character are so much more enjoyable than the times that he's like a butler, but I feel like he chooses the butler role so many times, or maybe he's just continually offered those. I don't know.
It's weird, right? Like, he is always Mark Strong, who we will never refer to as Mark
Did I do Stone again?
Mark Strong, always great. Yeah, always like it.
I love him so much. His name is Mark Strong.
Super underutilized in this film.
Anyway,
the other two that I want to mention real quick are Cruella's friends that she meets as kids, played by Joel Fry and Paul Walter Hauser. Paul Walter Hauser, hilariously enough, not British, also was the guy who was in I, Tonya, and he was in the movie about the the Atlanta bombing during the Olympics. I can't remember. He was the main character in that movie, though. I think it was Clint Eastwood.
I've been seeing him around a lot more, and I kind of just thought he was getting popular because of his bit in Cobra Kai. Actually,
that's funny.
So it sounds like he has much more work.
But those two guys, as when we're introduced to them as kids. So the opening part with her as a kid, I actually really loved. I loved every second of that. That little girl I thought was terrific. I loved the look of everything and how they played. I loved them meeting up. I was a little bummed out we didn't get more with the kid versions of them. But when she migrates to the Cruella character, and these kids have now kind of grown up with each other for 15 years or whatever. They've been robbing people. They're grifting. They're good thieves. They're looking for the angle.
Scamps, pickpockets, rogues, street rats.
She goes from being like, it's a night and day thing where she's kind of given up Cruella as she's gotten older, because she promised her mom, her fake mom, that she'll be a better kid. And
which later comes to light that her mom must have been afraid that she was going to grow up like the Baroness,
which makes perfect sense.
Whatever.
But there was the chemistry between the adult versions of them is not my favorite. Like, the two guys are okay together. They clearly spent a bit of time together. They seem like they know it, but there's just something, and I think it's in the scripting, where that switch that she flips and becomes so mean to them is like, it's that it's coming, but there is never a good reason given for them to stay with her, to be her friend, other than, helping Estella is good.
Yeah. They push and pull on that, and it gets real muddy. It's
not the story, but it's also a part of the story. And because of that, it weighs the movie down. And ultimately, one of my biggest issues with this movie is I don't think this earned its 2 hour and 15-minute runtime.
Come on, not even.
This movie could have been cut down by a good 30 to 40 minutes. And still,
I don't know how much that helps, though. Honestly, I feel like we've exhausted what I did really like about the thing.
Sure, I want to mention the costumes. I think the costuming in this movie is utterly gorgeous. They went fantastically like punky and then also extreme eleganza. Like, it's fantastic. The costuming in this movie is great. The cinematography in this movie is great. The soundtrack to this movie, I remarkably really enjoyed about 90% of it. There are a couple of covers that are just, you would have been better off using the original. honestly, like just for the fit. And it's
There's the Come Together by the Beatles.
and it's funny because like why
the other
are you doing a cover when you're playing all these original songs that kind of hit in this time period, and then you play these covers that are way out of whack? And that didn't.
The Beatles stuff, I'm not surprised. I don't know what their contract stuff is like,
Don't
but
use the song then.
you're not allowed. Yeah. I don't think those rights are given out very, very handily at all. I want to keep going with the soundtrack. When you say you liked it, do you mean you liked those songs?
Yes. There was, I will say the only one that, there were two songs that I actually really liked, and the placement of one of them I thought was great. And that was the Queen song. They did Stone Cold Crazy during the
Sure.
car chase, which I was like,
That's right. When she gets behind the wheel, and it's kind of a callback to the cartoon where that crazy.
yeah,
chase
and that was fun. There was another song that's really early on when they're kids and they're running from the cop, and it's kind of a funk song. I really like that song. I didn't love the placement of it because I thought it could have been placed better, or there was another song they could have used in that style. The style was right. The song was wrong, if that makes sense, you know?
It does. I liked every single song in this movie. I would, if I don't already own them handily at any point. But the music is my greatest gripe about this entire thing. The way the songs are used is just so heavy-handed, like music, not even music video doesn't do it justice. Like this also doesn't do it justice, but you remember, I feel like we talked about this a long, long time ago with the TV series Elementary, which I love.
Yeah.
But used to, and they got away with it. I want to say maybe during the second season, certainly the third, every episode used to end with just like the worst, poorest, like,
terrible pop song.
the song would kick in for the express reason of being like, you're feeling like this right now. And this movie does that every single time. It's like everything is a song that's meant to tell you, if not how you should feel, then exactly what's going on.
Sure.
And it kind of all culminates. Okay. The second thing I just like about the music that I'll say before we get there is that this movie is set consciously. In fact, I want to say it says in the IMDb somewhere. It says in some synopsis somewhere, not yours, thank goodness. But that this was set during the punk revolution in London, but very conveniently leaves out most,
most is right. Most is definitely
if-
right if you're going where I think you are.
not all of the punk pioneers, in favor of the music that came after, right? The music that I still love. Like I said, I love every song in this, but it's very obviously the stuff, and we're talking zeitgeist here. It's not like some bands listened to the actual, Velvet Underground or something like that, and we're like, I want to do a more toned down version of this. It's just, this is what happens. This is the cycle, especially when it comes to music. Something hits underground, and when it makes it mainstream, it's a little filtered by the time it gets there. This movie opts in favor of the filtered,
Totally,
far and
could
above.
not agree more.
And that seems strange to say, given that some of the choices are still the Stooges and stuff like that. But when the Stooges is used, it's the moment where she's making a big a show. It's kind of a pirate show out in the middle of nowhere. The cops come at the end, blah blah blah. But it's after she kidnaps the Dalmatians from the Baroness, and there's the big question as to, is she going to make coats out of them? And she shows up at that show in ostensibly a Dalmatian coat, to the tune of "I Want to Be Your Dog" by the Stooges. So it's, every song is like that, and it's non-freaking stop.
Yeah.
I want to say towards the end, it lets off the gas a little bit with that stuff, but there are, I looked it up, 38 songs that already exist, not excluding the scored stuff. This movie does have a score, and excluding, actually, I think the covers too. I didn't, and there's a credit song that's original, excluding the originals, I'll say. 38, man. And yeah, the movie lasts 2 hours and it's too long, but 38 songs in a 2-hour movie, you got to think about what that must entail. Like, that already tells you what you need to know.
And this movie is
in a lot of
not
ways.
high fidelity, man. Like,
No. And I haven't seen High Fidelity.
It's a delight.
It's not Gross Point Blank. Let's put it that way.
That's a
that
movie
better?
with perfect placement of music.
It's just it graded so bad. Like it was definitely my biggest gripe about this thing. But listen on its own. You can listen to that soundtrack. I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah.
It is great.
Yeah, I don't really, I honestly just don't have much else to say. That the movie is, it's uneven at best. It doesn't earn its runtime. I think the performances overall are pretty great for the mains. That all the side characters, all the supporting characters, nobody's given enough to work with. You're not getting really any of their story, so they're props at best, with Mark Strong being the one character who gets kind of an arc-ish, because we see him with hair.
I don't know. No, you get the feeling he knew the whole time. I mean, yeah, because he gave away the kid way back in the day, so he was always. Yeah. I mean, if anything, you're asking why he's still there. Like, what's his play? For hanging out with the evil Baroness who has been killing people.
Yeah, apparently.
Like, yes, we don't find out until later, but Mark Strong has been with her while she has murdered, it seems like, a lot of people. What was his play, the whole time?
I'm not really bothered. I'm not really bothered by it.
Felony homicide isn't, like, some people don't believe in it.
It fell on me. That's...
I don't know if that works.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't have much else. Okay, so let's wrap it up with this. We started maybe a little bit with why.
I still don't think that question is answered. And that's the thing for me. I don't think that question ever is answered. Of why do we need this? This movie is not necessary. Again, I can't. I would never go out of my way to recommend this to somebody unless you are a really big Emma Stone or Emma Thompson fan, or like 100
or Cruella.
Yeah, 101 Dalmatians, a Cruella thing. Like, this is a movie where for all intents and purposes, I see it being used more as a springboard for kids to try out new fashion than anything else.
I will say, because my daughter really, really loves this movie.
Did she like it? Yeah.
And she has had kind of fashion designer. I think it might have been the first job, that she wanted to be when she grew up thing that she said. And I think there probably is a lot of value. Like I said, the trailer has pretty much all of the arresting visuals of the movie, aside from good cinematography. I agree. But those visuals are good. And I like the whole play with headlines, like there's several montages where the headlines occupy a real space. And the design of this movie is good. And my daughter also found value in that. And I think that's cool. When it comes to why, this is the funny thing, is I don't think I'm that guy. Like, I don't think I necessarily even agree with Paul F. Tompkins that it doesn't need to exist. Like, if this movie, this is, generally speaking, in a poor way, without any justification, good. If this movie were good, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care that it didn't need to exist, but it's not. So I guess, sure, why in that sense, but I don't get so hung up on that if it had done something better, I would be all over. I'd be totally fine with it.
No, it's just, this is a movie that it happened. I watched it, and now I will purge it from my memory. And if somebody asks me, how'd you feel about Cruella? I'd say, oh, you got 30 minutes. Go listen to my show. It's the afterthoughts that get me, I think, with these shows too. Is the thing. There's a line in the middle that she says to her boutique buddy, people do need a villain to believe in, so I'm happy to fit the bill, or something like that. Yeah.
What a nonsensical, like, I guess if anything, this movie is wrapped up in that, like, assuming people need a villain to believe in, one, and two, I'll fit the bill. Why? Like, I guess that kind of wraps it all up still in its nonsensical nature to some extent.
Line of the movie.
The problem is that it literally wraps itself up with sympathy for the devil at the very end of the thing.
Maybe one of the worst placements of the song.
So stupid. Anyway, that's a bad way to... that part's so stupid. Lots of parts so stupid. The film overall maybe not so stupid, but...
Nah, okay.
So there you go.
How many stars?
We've answered the why. Yeah, can you believe we forgot to star... what was the one we did last week?
I can. Boss Level.
No, Boss Level, right. Retroactively had 39 stars.
Out of 42.
Which I knew ahead of time. I just forgot to say.
Right.
We're all caught up now.
Yeah.
because somebody at some point is going to do the thing where they go back and tally all that stuff up and like make our, it might even be one of us, but I hope it's somebody else that likes the show. Cruella, 92 stars.
Out of 104.
Matt, podcast at bookclubformovies.com. Please watch the same movies most of the time and tell us what you think about them. Matt, we teased possibly also doing synchronic for the rest of the show. Is that going to happen?
It is not. Unfortunately, that was not a...
it's fine.
This was a rough week.
It's fine. I watch these movies by Benson and Morehouse.
Head.
I know it's Morehead. I'm just Benson. But... and I'm also trying to make a joke that I like him better than you do, which I don't think I do. But
I like it.
I'm sure we'll get there someday.
We will.
So for the rest of the show, Matt, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you've seen that you must mention?
I will mention it, but I will not talk too much about it other than to note that Loki has started. It started this past Wednesday, and that will definitely be the next. We'll do a...
Okay, when that wraps up, we are going to do a show. I was going to ask you that too.
Absolutely, we have to.
Okay.
We're keeping up with the Joneses on that one.
Well, I'll say this after the first episode, and we've done Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, so why not? But I will say after the first episode of Loki, which I have seen, we're doing a show on it. So,
yeah, we're doing a show on that.
Spoiler,
boy, oh boy!
I guess.
Wow, we're gonna do a show. Wow. All right.
I saw a headline that was like, Loki makes you think, man, maybe I do like Owen Wilson. I'm like, who is this idiot?
Yeah, what? Who's not
now
liking...
it's like you're seeing, and you're like,
okay, dude, don't let me accidentally show you something like Night at the Museum.
It's like people,
awesome.
I know, write headlines to get your attention. It's aggravating, boy.
Owen Wilson,
like it
by
gets
the way,
discussion going.
They also cast Owen Wilson as Kraven the Hunter, so that's kind of cool.
Is that for real? Did you tell me that? I don't remember.
No,
that.
I didn't. But that would be the funniest thing. Wow, Spider-Man. All right.
It just always works. It always works.
I gotta kill Spider-Man. It's wow.
I've got two movies. You want to hear? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry.
One of them I feel like you'll see at some point, and I don't know if you want to do a show about it at some point, but Quiet Place 2.
I do want to see it. I don't know if it's worth a show.
Maybe we'll wait then.
Did we do a show on the first one?
We did, yeah. I was I remember because I was super high on it. I think like I started the show with saying it was one of my favorite movies of all time or something stupid like that, which
at the time,
I still like a great deal. But I like when I watch the movie way before we record the show, let's say. I think that works out better.
So you can calm down.
Yeah.
You can rectify and go, all right, it's not the best movie in the world. I was wrong.
I'll just say Quiet Place 2 is good.
Cool.
Going into it, I was like, maybe we'll save this for a weener anyways, for an October ween episode or something like that. And it kind of does the sequel thing where it's so far removed from what might be considered, not far removed, but it crosses that border that I feel like even video games do, like Resident Evil, even 4, 5 maybe, or 3, 4, where you're kind of looking more at an action movie or game at that point.
So they've gone the Alien route, where the first movie is super tense, and then the second movie is really definitely an action horror, and they kind of went with that here.
Yes, I think they're not as
cool.
grand as those trajectories, but I think it's a little bit along those lines. But we'll see. You'll see it. We'll decide.
I have some questions for you about it, actually.
Okay.
So is Cillian Murphy actually in the movie, or is he
Yes.
just like he just kind of pops in and out and he's gone?
Both.
Oh, okay.
No, he is. He figures in.
Does he? I guess. I mean, does he have a decent role, like a substantial role, or is he cool?
He is essentially occupying the space that Krasinski does not, since he died in the first one.
He died.
I paused a really long time before I said that. So if you haven't, and the first one is still worth seeing. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, we've got that on tape. And then the other question: do we get more of the monsters?
Yeah, but
you
not
actually get to see the monsters.
I mean, this is probably one of the greatest reasons why this is more of an action than the first one was, because the first one did hold off on showing us the monsters for quite a while, right? At least until the end of the second act, I want to say. Like in their fullness, we get lots of appendages, maybe even a head here and there, but
right.
Yes, they're here, and you see a bunch of them real up close all the time.
Cool.
Does that answer all your questions?
I mean, honestly, for right now, yeah, it's. I mean, the rest
See
of
it.
it is going to
Definitely
be.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely
talk about
will.
it.
It's yeah.
The other movie I saw, and I want to say you did see and mentioned to me literally offhand, and I think I just put it on my list, but I kept hearing about it since you did that. And the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah.
Did you see that, or did you just have been hearing about it?
No. We watched it. We totally watched it. It was the first movie we watched outside this summer, actually.
Okay, so Netflix thing.
Yeah, we stumbled onto it literally from we were setting up the projector and everything outside, and it was just making sure that do we have sound to put on the first thing. Put on the first movie that Netflix has showing up, and it was that movie. And we were just like, both Beth and I kind of turned it on, and we sat down and we just kind of got sucked into it and watched it.
That's cool. Yeah, I kept hearing about it from a lot of different avenues, and then I finally heard that it's basically the next Chris Lord, Phil Miller thing, which I had no idea. Who I guess also I didn't know once I started looking into their stuff. I just always equate them with Lego Movie and then Spider-Verse. But I guess they were Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and I want to say that I'm missing something else in there that's pretty recognizable. But this is their next thing. I want to say in producer terms at the very. I don't think either of them directed it. If I had to look,
I don't think so.
The reason I mention that is because this is, to me, after watching it, the current sequel to Spider-Verse, for the time being until the real one comes out. Like,
it's really good.
It's so good, man. And Spider-Verse is in fact, I will stand by I will appropriate your evaluation of it being the best superhero movie ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
I think the more time goes on, the more I think that as well. And I've watched it probably twice since you've mentioned that.
I've been wanting to rewatch it actually since.
What show was that we did that?
I don't know. It wasn't that far back though.
Anyway, yeah, it was another comic book movie. Anyway, the Mitchells versus the Machines has all of the heart that Spider-Verse has. It has more of the laughs. Like it's certainly because it deals a lot with kind of internet humor, and
the dog is so funny.
Outright slapstick, dude. That is the first time in this movie that I laughed myself to tears. Essentially, was when they did the whole tricking the dad into kissing the dog montage. I lost it, man. Me and my daughter both were just tears coming down our face. We were crying and it's because it gets the timing perfect. It's not even every joke lands in the film. Like there are some that I'm like, I get, but the ones that do, like 2 or 3 times brought me to tears in this thing. So.
And you gotta love Abby Jacobson, man. I mean, I love her in Broad City. I think Broad City was one of the best comedy shows that's ever happened. Especially,
I'm pretty familiar with most of the people in the movie. Actually, that can't be. Oh no, Maya Rudolph as the mom. Actually,
yeah. But Abby is she's best known for Broad City, and she is like that show is obscene. It's obscene, and it's obscenely funny. And
it's now on the list. So
it's one of the best things I think Comedy Central has ever put out. And I love that they basically had full control over it. They got to do their style of comedy. And what you typically get is we don't see a lot of female-led shows that deal in female, like, that have kind of they truly have an edge to them. There's like it's got some sex. They talk about sex. They talk about drugs. There's constant stuff that goes on in their lives, but we don't ever see it. It's always 2 idiot guys, or a couple of idiot guys, and then they've got
sometimes 3 idiot guys. Though is the thing.
Yeah, but then they always have one of them has the smart partner. In Broad City, they flip that on its head, where those two, they're not stupid, but they're certainly not the knocking down PhD doors, and the person.
I'll help you turn that into a regular turn of phrase. Don't worry.
Thank you. The person that actually has like all their stuff together and has their head on straight is Hannibal Buress.
Oh, is he in the thing too? Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, I guess great. Okay. Actually, I totally lied about Mitchells versus the Machines too. Danny McBride as the dad, and Eric Andre. Speaking of Hannibal Buress. Oh, Olivia Colman as Pal. Okay, well. Oh, and you know what? Fred Armisen and Beck Bennett do the robots. So I know most of the people, or have heard of I've never met any of them. Most of the people in this movie.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mitchell's versus the Machines is fantastic in that it also does that thing that I love, where it's and not perfectly. This isn't Shaun of the Dead level or anything, but
okay.
It's giving me character development during the action with the action.
Right.
Essentially, the heart of the film becomes that they need to save the world from the machines, but the father realizes that upon doing that, he will, in a way, lose his daughter in the process. So there are two worlds at play. One of them's the family, like the father's world is his family. I guess, spoiler why this might be playing to me as well. It's a very dad movie. Whereas, the world is also in peril from takeover from machines, which are also our devices, our phone. It's if Apple, if Siri went rabid type thing, So it's plays the balance pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. No, just that I've seen in recent memory. Like it was a great time.
Super great animated flick just in general. But yeah, overall it's a good movie. It was totally worth the time.
And I'm halfway through the Fate of Lee Khan, my action movie thing, so I'm going to take a week off on that as well. I'm sure I'll get back to it. I will definitely get it finished for next, so come back for that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, in between time, if you want to check out some other stuff, both Ryan and I picked up, we signed up for Letterboxd, we're both being a little, I'm a little slower with it. I'm not really super digging into it right now, but we have some lists up. You can see the ongoing list that we've got. Either of our pages has Ryan's actually is more complete. He's done the full show. You did. I was impressed. You've done the full show list of everything we've focused on as a main book club for movies flick. I've got just kind of the current stuff that's been, past
I think you did 21 entries. Yeah.
I think I did this year, actually. It's what we've done this year.
Yeah. And if you do the read notes on my list, I think it'll give you the episode links in there as well. Yeah. We're playing around with it. I like it so far. I'm going to actually start writing it because a lot of times, one of the reasons I signed up is because a lot of times in my notes, like I will write out basically and Letterboxd seems to trade in kind of small, quick reviews that people like to do. A lot of times that's how I write my notes. So I figured doing this, I could drop some of those just straight in there. So I'll begin doing that at some point as well, using the site as intended, it seems.
Yeah. So look us up on Letterboxd. We're listed under BCFM _ and then our name. So Matt and _ Ryan.
That is my name. That's your name too.
It's Ryan is everybody's name. We are Ryan. We are
VR.
We are Carnage.
Oh boy.
Let there be carnage.
That's not the.
It's called
Let there be carnage. Let there be. Yeah.
Let there be.
That's come carnage. Up 2 times. I feel like we're mentioning it so often it's going to turn into a show. Maybe I just put all the times we've mentioned it into a 40-minute episode, and it's as coherent as surely that movie will be.
Let's see. Woody Harrelson doing something coherent. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's definitely something he did.
Okay, so come back. Tell you what, let's commit to the Godzilla show. I say, like, I haven't been the one that's been putting it off. What do you say?
History shows again and again that if you come back in 2 weeks, it'll be Godzilla.
I don't get the reference.
There's a song called Godzilla.
Oh. I extremely don't get the reference. I guess for all the movies I've been watching, I missed the song. That's strange.
Yeah, there's a song called Godzilla by the Blue Oyster Cult. You should listen to it immediately.
I'm kind of surprised it wasn't in Cruella, actually, now that you mention it.
I'm surprised Don't Fear the Reaper wasn't in
there
Cruella.
You go. No, yeah, they would have needed a Reaper in the film is the thing.
And I'm surprised one of the dogs wasn't named Reaper.
That would have been still too subtle, I feel like. So it's in stone. We're going to do
Mark
ostensibly
Stone.
Kind of movie of show. If I were to add it to a list of sorts, would be Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
But I am 6 movies deep into the Showa era, I want to say, starting on the Heisei era, if that's how you say it. Also this week, which is, I want to say 84 on. And then, of course, I mean, I'm sure none of this is going to matter. The stuff that will matter is the current Godzilla from 2014, the U.S. Skull Island I'm including. I don't know if that's technically in there. Not watching the Peter Jackson one, although I'm sure I'll mention it. And King of the Monsters, I think, rounds that out. Sound about right?
Sounds correct to me.
Okay. I am interested in King of the Monsters because that's pretty divisive from what I hear.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so
Okay. Well,
that'll be a good one.
we'll talk about somewhere around there's about, so come back for that. And
Good night and good luck.
okay.